I think we're ready on our end if you want to.
Sorry, I'm just pulling up my agenda. Got it. Okay, I guess I'll call the meeting to order as chair, and maybe I'll designate somebody in the room there to serve as chair temporarily, make it a little bit easier. So, Len, do you want to chair us for this meeting?
Yeah, be happy to.
Thank you.
Okay, well, I'm going off agenda. No, just kidding.
I'll rein you in if I have to.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, there's no guests, so we'll just stop right in. So, update on activities. I believe. Well, we got a detailed design update. So, you also have on here the Fall Foliage Festival. So, Tom, what about the thing you did a couple Fridays ago at the library? I was curious to hear how that turned out.
Yeah, that went well. It was a small group, but a good group. It included Councilman Hostetter, Jenna Conizer was there, Mary Shoemaker was there, and there were a few new faces to me anyway that came by. I think everybody was, interested to see the draft of the design at this point. Of course, made the point that there's still a lot of work to be done, but generally excited about it. And I think I'm looking forward to doing it again in November with the updates that we have.
Excellent. Good. Are there any other activities other than what's on the agenda that you guys can update us on?
I think we had three pretty good meetings. Tom, just with general stakeholders kind of coming in, just going through kind of the design phases, where we stand. We got some good board input. We got good just general community input. Tom set in for two of the. Did you make it all three? Two, yeah.
2 out of the 3.
2 out of the 3. I think those were a good success in updating those parties interested. Came away with some insight that we didn't have before, so that was a positive for sure, and that kind of led us into the detailed design update.
Nice.
So,
And Joe is currently presenting at the
Garden Club.
Garden Club. Right?
Yes, Garden Club.
Super.
And did you guys meet with Glave Holmes yesterday?
We did. We got a kind of a PowerPoint they gave us with some updates they've done. Happy to review that here in a second. Want to do that?
I think we're ready for that. I don't think there's anything else to add. So go ahead. Let's zap over to that.
Mary's letting us share.
Right.
We're going to share a screen here.
After the news over. Don't let me forget.
So while we're doing that, so the concept design phase is what we're completing, I guess, if we're saying that we're completing anything. It's generally considered outside the DGS or Department of Building and Engineering's general model. So we've tested schematics and preliminaries probably 1,000 times now. This concept phase is more of a byproduct of switching AE firms in the middle, right? They want to do their own proof of concepts. They want to do their own. Are we still going this direction? Is it still where we're at? Because we've seen it 100 times, but they're putting their eyes on it for the first time, doing their presentation, and then they're bringing ideas to us. So that's concept design is loosely based around the preliminary designs that we had done previously, and then they take those ideas and kind of run with it with scope and scale and thoughts we've had and interim ideas we've had there. And they kind of sum that up. Those were the meetings, the stakeholder meetings, the kickoff meetings, as the community input, board input. So this is kind of it all narrows down, right? We're filling the funnel from the top down. So they gave us a presentation yesterday. It's about an hour and a half long. Hopefully I'll stick to about 15 minutes here. Not too bad. So as you can see, this is the parking lot here.
John, just for a second, you said switching AE forms midstream.
Yeah.
You're talking about going from the pre-planning to Glave homes, or was there a change after?
Yes.
The Glave? So this is just,
Pre-planning to go out there.
okay, got it.
So that's
So while you have this image up, and as a point of information, there are 177 parking spots. I went out and counted them. Because parking has become a perennial question. And so I wanted to be able to give real numbers about how our impact might be on parking.
I feel like I need that tattooed on my forearm.
Yes.
So
I
everybody
also,
knows.
again, from this image, you can see at the firehouse across Arch Avenue behind the spot where the building will be. I got access to go up to the roof there and take some images of the panoramic view, just to get a sense of the sight lines and so forth. And I've shared those with Joe and some others, and including the design team, but I'm happy to share them more broadly. I think they give a nice sense of what we'll be able to see, out of the windows that face in that direction.
Very nice.
That was nice. And then in this presentation, there's a later on, Tom got the Bernard Johnson to just give us kind of a rendering of what the view shed could look like from that second story window. That was kind of exciting too. We'll jump into that. So, yep. So you guys remember the initial meeting where we sat in a room and discussed square footages and percentages, and just to give us an idea of kind of where we're headed. And they want to reaffirm, I guess, our business plan and model with the limited, we're not reinventing the Smithsonian type ideas here. So limiting space and expanding on exhibit space. So it's kind of just that first meeting where we went over the square footages, just confirmed. And I think most of you guys have seen these stacking diagrams. So to the left is the services map. So it's just a generalized flow chart of what services need to be near other services. Even now, you can still see they have the theater connections in there. That's really just shows you the focus is more on the bigger picture. It's more on where are things going to go. So we're not looking at specifics yet, and that's kind of the theme of the conceptual design phase. Is not looking at the details. You're just looking at the overall picture. This gives you the lot layout. We've been over this a couple times. We have everything's just kind of a placeholder. You can see to the left is parking with the pull through there. Greg has pointed out that needs to be adjusted to make sure we meet current zoning ordinances. But really just focusing on the building, X amount of square foot, X amount of space here. Jump to the next one. Again, another view. There's a more detailed look at what things are going on inside the first and second floor later on in the presentation. But this is us sticking with the rooftop mechanical. This is us sticking with the entrance to the left of the building. It's bigger picture. It's visitor services down to the left. The offices are near where visitors are entering. Exhibits tend to be centered on the design. And then we're still taking full advantage of that view shed with windows, classroom space, lab space, but it's kind of to be determined. And then this is, as you remember, so the stacking diagrams lead to where they put the skin, they skin it out, flesh out the model, kind of get all right, you see the shadow of the building where the shadow will be cast. This also kind of design got sent to the floodplain study individuals, kind of a very successful preliminary thoughts there on not flooding other properties around us based on this footprint. And again, here's another kind of more, this is the more decorative version that they're floating by us, kind of with that big green coverings and the angular roof with the rooftop mechanical hidden behind those walls, just kind of another aesthetic feature. So they're starting to build on kind of where they fleshed out the original skin on the building. To the right, you see there is the terrace there, and then the I guess it's a kind of a pergola on that second story for that terrace for group gatherings. At this point, we brought up a question from our from JMU's team on, if we do extend that terrace near the above the entrance on the second floor there, do we have to have a dry sprinkler system? What questions will we be asking DGS, at our upcoming meeting there? So it's really to inspire questions and, kind of focusing on design versus what we need versus what we don't need. And this is a simplified version. So, we have to go in with options. Just keeping in mind, the space where we want things to be. And then, having options to either play up or play down the space based on budget or just general thoughts and considerations. Not necessarily even the budget for construction, but the ongoing operational budget. All right, so getting to kind of the floor plan here. This is the most up-to-date one. So you can see here kind of the biggest change. To me, there's several changes, but one of the bigger changes is bringing that lab space down to the first floor. So just exhibit area, lab space, then you got the entryway, and they have, I don't know, at our meeting yesterday, we talked about shrinking the store even further. So this is the second version of the store size. The store is getting smaller and smaller with each passing day, which we agree with. In theory, for sure.
Our current store is about 600 square feet. And I think this is 700 and something.
Yeah,
So
there.
we do a lot with our stores. I think that it's finding that balance.
All right. So part of the process is not that we even know that the store is going there. So as part of conceptual design, we just know that there is a guest services space. Zoom in. Is there any way to? We got some onlookers. There we go. Nice. And so you can kind of see the first, I've been introduced to the Cars Play structure, which is underneath the aesthetic ramp there for potential play area for children, which immediately brought up the is it considered occupiable space if we're saying that this is underneath the structure. So more questions for DGS in our meeting there, but I think it's a good idea of incorporating, we see the idea of incorporating inside and outside together here. It's starting to come along. You can see the boulder fill leading in, kind of an idea we've had traditionally throughout the project. But, the first really where they've really shown us how that's
Maybe it could be occupied by the Madison Cave isopod.
There we go. Don't need to put sprinklers for those guys. They'll survive.
So what about handicap accessibility and all that? When do you start working on that?
Well,
Probably further into the process.
yeah, we need to firm up some stuff, right? We're gonna firm doors where our doors go, and if you go to the next screen, there's comments on like hallway widths, etc. So, and then we of course need to raise the building on that one side, so we got to figure out strategically where we're going to place those handicap spots,
Okay.
and then how we're going to have that float into the building.
Are any of these rooms going to be fireproof? And the reason I'm asking is I was in a meeting with a museum recently, and one of the big questions that was raised concerned the storage of precious items, but particularly archival materials and so forth, and the role of making sure there are fireproof you've got rooms that are literally fireproof, not just a sprinkler system, but and I don't know how you all deal with that at Martinsville.
Do you have special storage considerations for like the wet biology specimens, all the flammable materials, and they're all kept separately and they've got their own systems? I couldn't tell you what all they are.
For this building specifically, I think as far as housing collections, it will be
would be
I
anything?
mean, it's a great question, and something certainly to bring up. I think that most of everything we have here should be on display. I think maybe the lab space might have some storage for specimens. Outside of that, as far as back of house storage goes, I think we're going to be really, really limited there. So that's a good question. For specimens going on display, I'll certainly ask the architects. And I assume that the exhibit designer will play a role in that as well. So not even discussing anything with them. So this is the second floor. You guys can tell if you've seen it before, the lab space obviously gone, and even with our conversations yesterday, we've moved was the catering kitchen over and shifted some things around. So just it is truly a general idea of what we'll have. This will be the second floor. And then the multi-purpose / classrooms also kind of in the air. We need to show DEV something. But this is definitely a preliminary for sure.
Right, the class, basically the multi-purpose space is going to be a combination of classrooms and exhibit space or both. Right, and that's all to be determined. So there's some flexibility there.
And they have, as you can tell, that exhibit area, as you'll notice, Tom and others that they have opened up that back inside, helping with the flow. And then we had comments on the open to below section, which is evidently a conversation they've had on the other end with the exhibit designers. So they're thinking a multi-level, multi-tier exhibit could go in that space.
And the thought was to visually tie together the upper level and the lower level through some sort of exhibit vertical element. That was our thought, but that's as far as.
Probably the best example of that I've ever seen is the Smithsonian Air and Space Museum at Dallas. Have you been in there? And you walk in on that floor and you're actually looking at, aircraft at this kind. I mean, that you can integrate that concept into some exhibits this way. I think that would be really cool use of that space.
Yeah, I've seen that other places too, Len. The Natural History Museum, I think it was at Harvard, has a really nice big open room where you see whales suspended from below, and then on the second floor, and you're looking right across at them. Things like whale skeletons and the like. I also had a recommendation for the Natural History Museum in New Mexico that has kind of an open area and a spiraling, sounds like, stair that goes up and around.
That's cool.
So I know we're always looking for models, but I
North
do
Carolina-
appreciate that they addressed the flow issue that I think that open to below created, where it blocked off access to that exhibit area in the back from either side. So it is nice that you can move all around that open to below space now.
At the North Carolina Aquarium, they have a space like this, and what they've done is they have built ecosystems that demonstrate difference in elevation. So, yeah, very, very nice display.
That's kind of like the New England Aquarium. The big tank is, you walk down and on the outer edges are different ecosystems, but on the inside, you're looking at different strata of the. Yeah, that's cool stuff. I mean, you got a lot of space with the lobby area there.
And then another question kind of addressed that came up in those meetings we were having was the width of the hallway is roughly 10 feet there. So I think having that traveling exhibit, I think there's a question of congestion. And they assured us, but trust but verify that is generally considered the rule on things as far as having that 10-foot space for hallways in. If there was a line or congestion, it would work to eliminate that. That's another comment we had.
Where are they thinking about for the early childhood education center? I thought at one time we were talking about that being in the first floor exhibit area.
Now, I asked that same question yesterday and they said it's too soon.
Okay.
It was a resounding nope, too soon. I was like, okay, all right, sorry. It didn't even need to, because that what prompted that question for me was the lab space is now moved down to where I thought, but too soon, too early, and I was I was shut down
So
pretty
we
quickly.
we will revisit that question in the spring after we kind of have our cost estimate and building envelope all together.
Yes, that is more just exhibit design, I think, is what they were pushing forward.
Okay,
So whatever the flow at that point is, we'll definitely revisit. Similar to the multi-purpose classroom space with flat benches or not type. It's like I got, we're shut too soon. It's like, okay,
okay.
all right, we're looking at square
What,
footage.
what about the question of the lab space moving to the first floor? Because like you, I was a little surprised to see that.
That was an attempt to put I believe, the drainage or the system, building systems fit better that way.
Okay,
We addressed it yesterday in the meeting too, so that was a question for them to come back with an answer on. So you see where the family restrooms are there? That kind of flows down, and just pulling that water from that far right side, even though you see a catering kitchen. Evidently, that was an easier fit for the building systems as a whole.
I gotcha. Did we also lose restrooms? It seemed like there were some restrooms in that multi-purpose classroom space, but is
We have consolidated and expanded them.
There are
Okay.
fewer smaller restrooms, and they're more consolidated into fewer larger restrooms. if that makes sense.
okay.
Yeah, I think that view shed they're saying that you saw the classroom storage move over too, which, we questioned them on that because now your classrooms are on one side of the building, your storage is on the other, but they're saying that the value of the view shed would trump that, and if that's what we would like.
I agree with that, by the way. The view shed, I think, is premium.
It's valuable for sure.
And for things like storage, like chairs and things, there are considerations like it'd be better to store things like that on the loading dock in a creative way than take up usable public space. So just thinking creatively of maximizing public utility space.
This is just kind of the total area, trying to keep everybody in line here. We asked for summaries on, what's the first floor, what's the second floor, what are we talking here, outdoor terrace space, what's the, what can we take the DGS and say, is this occupiable space? Is this not occupiable space? How does it hurt our scope? Does it hurt our scope? So it's just a generalization of what we were kind of talking about, the terraces and the second and first floor, bulk square footage. And this is kind of the first look at the new renderings. As you can tell, there's more siding, the panels, a little bit more texture to them. And in particular, there are a lot more windows, which is something we're having them look at. And I think the conversation came up yesterday, and it said we have to go window pane by window pane to discuss whether this is warranted, or if this is wasteful, or if this is non-conducive to exhibits we can. So they took some liberties here. There's a lot of glass, and it's something to look at. Also, the siding, you guys know, is the aluminum panels. I think it's an acid treatment that they do to give it the color. If you haven't seen this before, there's some mixed in here, so still mimicking the Blue Ridge. Still,
It's very attractive.
it's resounding. Everybody who's spoken to really pretty.
Yeah, it'll definitely, just sparkle. It's very attractive.
One question that came up was the reflectivity of the panels for folks driving in the morning or different times of the day. And the folks assured us that there are different levels of reflectivity. So you don't necessarily want to mirror or shine in the sun back to people when they're driving. We can choose sort of the level of how shiny they are.
They're showing people on the balcony outside the classroom space. I thought that was a future expansion. Is that just suggestive here? Or are we actually including that in the design?
It is a future expansion. You're correct. That's maybe phase 1, phase 2, probably. It's giving you the full look. Yep. this is kind of all the sides here. You can see to the rear of the building, the bottom right, that kind of faces the city of Waynesboro. Something that they're trying to do a good job of breaking up the facade. Right now, if you were to look at their plan, those are green. They're living walls. And we immediately turn back around and ask them, hey, what is the cost? Why are we adding maintenance to the project? That kind of thing. So I think the theme of breaking up the space in a responsible, practical way, for sure. Living wall, would need to be justified.
They should consider exposure here too. I think the back side of that building is not going to get a lot of sunlight.
Right.
We also brought the idea of something like banners would be another way to break up the facade with a lot less maintenance.
Or how about some LED panels?
Yeah, signage.
Yeah, with imaging and signage and communication pieces, video.
Are we going for any kind of certification for the building in terms
Yes.
of sustainability?
It will be a VES, so VES, the Virginia Energy Standards. It leans toward a lead silver, but we don't have a point system, so it's cost effective way to make sure we meet the standards. So this is just kind of from the rooftop down. Another look at the parking. Definitely some adjustments need to be made there. For sure, on the top you can see the distance from the back of the building to the street, and then to the right. Posed the question yesterday, if the floodplain becomes an issue, can we move it up? And because they're saying right now that's for future expansion. So that they are looking into that, but really just looking down on it. It's got an iconic kind of shape to it. Definitely, on the city of Waynesboro side, more squared off, and then as you move toward the mountains, you get the rounded edges, you get the terraces, and it kind of steps down to the river. Seems to be really popular with everybody.
Yeah, regarding parking, I think I saw numbers like 55 spaces to the left of the building in this view, and maybe 7 to the right. One comment that might want to share with them is when we do have festivals and events, it'd be nice to have some space that maybe is in that grassy area that could accommodate parking, at least, occasionally. And I've seen these units where you can have grass growing through kind of a mesh, and the mesh supports the weight of the vehicle so it doesn't crush and kill the grass. So I just bring that up because, again, we're going to be facing this question about how we impact parking, especially during festivals and events.
Yeah,
But the South River Preserve design has that festival concept built into it. They're designing that section over here specifically to accommodate festivals and the parking associated with that. So we should at least, coordinate that with what they're doing. Because they recognize that, that festivals downtown are important.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, and I brought that up too to a couple of folks who are business people in Waynesboro. One of the things that they said is a lot of their clients like to be able to pull up right out front of their building and, access the store. And I don't know that we can replace that.
Yeah,
it's hard to argue against, well, you're going to lose some parking, but you're going to gain all these people that are going to come and visit, and hopefully that'll improve your business. And if they have to walk a little farther, so be it. But
I spent 25 years at WDDI fighting that question every single year. Right down to the parking meters and so forth. So
this is Greg. I'm sorry, we're not going to get away from that. Tom, I know you asked Joe for the parking study, but that is so old, I'd be afraid to show it. But I think we can glean some numbers off of that, and what you just did with counting spaces and stuff. I think we can come up with a concise, this many parking spaces within this much walking. So we're kind of working on that. So.
Great, because it would really help to be able to answer that question with some real numbers and ideas.
So Greg, what about, the Galdens building over here across the street? I mean, I know the general thinking in their mind is two levels of parking. I mean, is any of that going to be available for downtown parking?
So yes, it probably will only be one level of parking there. And they're looking, I forget how many parking spaces, but especially if they get a state grant, it has to be at least 30% available for commercial use. So there will be, I don't know, 25, 30, 40 parking spaces in there that'll be available for everyday use.
Yeah.
And something else that comes to mind looking at this particular view is how are people going to approach the building? Let's say they're coming from the Greenway. Right now, it almost looks like they're going to be led to the ramp, which is probably the wrong place, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because the entrance is below the
Or to the left, down bottom left side.
yeah, further to the left there.
Yeah.
So I think maybe a revisit on some of these pathways would be appropriate, especially, I mean, no, we're not doing landscaping yet, but
Right.
But certainly a pathway from the bowl, if you will.
yeah,
Right into the front entrance makes a lot of sense.
yeah, towards that, I don't know what that is, pink or mauve
Plaza or
area there.
Looks like a plaza. Maybe.
I think that gets into some of the perforated or the perforated pavers.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the drop off area, right?
Yep, that's right there.
Yeah.
So yes, I can jump into the for DEV, some specific questions we're gonna ask them, like top of the list parking. And then of course, the ramp in general. We're concerned, what plan to go to them to ask, what kind of, if there is a ramp, does it have to be 10 feet wide? What ADA concerns do we have, and how is that gonna affect cost? So, what we're looking at right now is likely to change. So that ramp might be shortened. It might be coming off with a front left straight down, like you're saying too. So it's definitely a good suggestion, because I don't, with the concerns coming from, the team at JMU and ourselves, what is this ramp? It's going to be, it's going to be more costly than beneficial.
And it's unclear where you access it. Is it exit only? It's very visually appealing, but it's unclear the utility of it.
Do we hang up a chain across it? Say, oh, no, only through the front door. So it brings up more questions than answers for sure. And then that kids play area underneath is lots of concern there, but we'll get there. Sure. Just another look, kind of looking down on the building. Really aesthetically pleasing.
One thing they brought up is the building is going to be viewable from all angles, from all sides. So they're specifically designing it in a way where it's going to be attractive from each side. There is no front and back. There is no hidden part of it. So it's something they're keeping in mind throughout the design.
And you can see here, immediately given free rein, the architect started putting in skylights. So across the top, just a few sliding coming in naturally. We just don't know why. That was rooftop mechanical space, and now it's a like H&M type skylight area. Definitely addressed that with them immediately after seeing this kind of rendering with that glass there above exhibits. I mean,
It's
nice above classroom space.
But it does fit with the industrial architecture around here. Right, it's a traditional 40s factory. All had the high. Some rivers got that over here. Yeah, so maybe that's their thinking. Blended in with it.
For sure. I think our concern is heating and cooling that air right there. Because they took a space that was originally outside, which is rooftop mechanical, and now they've made it part of the internal structure of the building. So there's concern. To the left, though, I think that is going to stay.
You also got bird strike issues that you want to worry about.
Yep. Anyway, just you have lots of glass in this design, a lot more than previous.
Bet you Joe is happy to see that.
Joe, But he had to temper himself.
We did, and we didn't mention this, Jonathan, but we did have that tour of the Danville Science Center, and I thought it was interesting to see the one space where they had the glass that would actually change to opaque,
Oh, yeah.
given an electric current or something like that.
Mhm.
I didn't really understand that technology, but I thought that was pretty slick.
Yeah, I think those this glass panels are produced at Eastman, which is located near Martinsville, in Martinsville. So I might have an inside line on that.
Oh, hell yeah.
Yeah.
So I have a question based on working with Glave and Holmes before at the JMU farm. They did some renderings for us to help us understand the siting as it with seasonal change. So all the images we've seen thus far, there's vegetation, right? And I'm thinking about this building and how beautifully, as it's rendered now, how beautifully it blends in with the green of the summer, for example. But I'm also thinking about what it's going to look like in the wintertime. And have they talked about that at all in terms of just their design?
But not. That's a good point. Like that's definitely a new insight to consider. As far as the landscaping around it, we're a ways off, but certainly the colors, fall colors or, what are we going for with it? For sure.
Well, and also, winter up against the Blue Ridge can be rather stark, right?
Mhm.
And I'm just thinking about this building. It looks very tropical to me. And I understand the colors are negotiable and all of that, but I'm just thinking about sometimes when we imagine these things, we're thinking about them at a particular time of the year. And this is an area that sees a good bit of change seasonally. So I don't know how that could be brought into the design. Or if it can, but I'm just bringing it up. Glave and Holmes did some nice work for us at the JMU farm that allowed us to really think through some things.
I have a question about materials, and I apologize for being late. And if you all have already covered that, I'm just curious as to what's creating the blue. Is that paint or is that a material? And generally, what is the building going to be made out of?
So those are aluminum squares. It's aluminum. I was happy to find it. It's a less expensive version. It's treated with like an acid treatment that gives it a particular color. It has to do with the aluminum is electrically charged, and then they add acid. Yes, and it gives it the color.
Yeah.
And then the rest of the facade will be the typical brick masonry at this point. That's what we're leaning toward. Yeah, there you go. Right now. So kind of the stone, similar to the kind of the red brick color of the rest of downtown Waynesboro.
Right, that's good.
We did talk about it. I'm not sure. Unfortunately, I missed the meeting on October the 12th, but there was definitely a conversation about how our museum in Martinsville stands in stark contrast to the area around it, and that is not something we're going for here. We're going for more fit the area, fit the downtown, and be incorporated into the community rather than set itself or stand apart.
Yeah, and hopefully fit with where Waynesboro is now, but also where does Waynesboro want to be in 20 years or whatever the future plan is, whatever that means.
We don't want to be any further than we are right now.
Yeah.
I said it in jest, Greg, don't puke on me, but it's true. So the outdoor space where the pergola is there any usage for that? I'm thinking about the space down in Martinsville that just raised the money for it to make some use out of, because it was kind of dead space for a long time. So what's the thoughts there? I mean, is it just going to be an open space, or is there any usage plan for it?
Well, I've heard a lot of ideas, and we might be getting too far into the weeds now, but internally their renderings of the mountains, locations of things, and then a space for like an evening cocktail hour.
Okay.
That's kind of what has been thrown around. Could be anything that, so,
Okay.
It's additional or spillover space for private events or museum events.
and they might just be looking for a good reason to have a ramp. Yeah. So,
And is
but,
it, I mean, you could possibly use it as somewhat exhibit space for certain things, right?
oh, for sure. Yeah, around the, the glass railing there,
Yeah.
that would be a good space for sure.
Yeah.
If it comes to be.
Jonathan or Ryan, I have a request to get a couple of these newer images on a panel that I can share at the library later this month.
We could do that.
And also, we probably need to just pay attention to our time a little bit. I know we have a couple of other agenda items we wanted to hit, so.
Yeah, you just kind of see the slide and see if there's anything else. Just kind of right there.
Man, I'll just toss this
You-
out as a what if, but is there some value in maybe slipping a few of these images out to the newspaper as, hey, you know, things are moving along, this is what it's kind of looking like?
Let us meet with DEB first.
Okay.
They might tell
all
us,
right,
take
I
everything
knew-
out. They might be like, all right, this, I don't think they will, but there's a chance there.
Okay.
Elements might change.
Elements might change, yeah. So,
It is.
oh, there's the, I was talking earlier about the view shed. I was kind of ready to get some great homework for us and got those images from that fire station. This is what the architect is proposing as the view would be out of those classroom windows. And then off to the, I guess if you're looking at it head on the left side, where the pergola / outdoor gathering space would be. So you should be able to see the water according to the map and the computer algorithm.
It looks a lot better in real life than it does in those images.
Oh, sure. Sure.
I'm sure it's stunning.
All right, I can.
So next steps.
Sorry. Yep. Good.
So DB discussion, the cost estimate.
Yes, so Monday, Joe and I are heading up to meet with DEB along with the architectural group. To discuss those things we talked about earlier, the ramp, the indoor outdoor space, the occupiable square footage, the kids playground area, and then kind of get a feel for the parking. You know, is this what's necessary, what's likely, and where is this number you're giving us coming from?
So the objective of that meeting with DEB is to get them to basically say, okay, we're good with this, so you can then get a good firm cost estimate, right? Is that-
Correct. So then we jump in right into the schematics. So we kick off stakeholder meeting for schematics. And then, we'll run through that. Hopefully January, February, we'll have the full cost estimate that we can take with us and to justify we've already made, the ask. So we just need the hard number justification of where we'll be.
What if DEB says, this is horrible? Major problem, this can't work, that's not gonna happen, we're not, what happens then? You go back to the drawing board and then another meeting with DEB?
I think it is to update the. So
Okay.
the horribleness will be removal of areas, like Ron was saying, just different components. The square footage will remain the same, the number of parking spots will remain the same. And so it'll be a look at what extras we have. The ramp, definitely an extra, the gathering space outside, definitely an extra.
Yeah,
So we'll say, well, this is how I would do it, or this is how I would make this work for you.
yeah, okay.
So, and then they'll tell us to keep our costs under control as they should, and then hopefully we'll move on.
Now, originally we thought, I was on my understanding that we were supposed to have some kind of a cost estimate submitted to the staff level, General Assembly's, budget staff in advance of the,
Correct. That happened in September. So
oh, it did already?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, we submitted that at the beginning of September as part of the ongoing
And
capital.
general
process.
numbers, 32 million.
Yeah, roughly 26 to 30 million.
Okay,
So with another 2 million to 3 million being raised by the foundation.
so by January, we have the number we're taking to the General Assembly.
Yes. If they ask for it. Yeah, so it should be, the budget office is working digital, so we'll send it to the budget office.
Okay,
And then if no issues are apparent and we don't get any requests, they'll assume that's all good
all right.
and they'll just proceed forward.
And who submits it to the General Assembly for legislation?
The
Building Department,
budget, so the
Budget Department.
Department of Planning budget.
And they basically say, this is a project that's now,
Yeah.
gotten to the point where we want to fund it.
Yeah, so it's the capital outlay management team. They say this is part of this capital outlay pipeline.
Okay.
We're moving forward with this.
And we don't need our legislators to sponsor bills or nothing like
It's already in the bill, so.
It is, I mean, it's law at this point.
Yeah,
so-
it's part of the bill process. It'll just be the amendment. It won't even be amended. It'll just be moved to the capital.
Yeah, good, okay,
Just a matter of timing.
Yes.
Yeah.
So it's already part of the structure.
yeah, good.
It's an allocation of funds essentially.
Are you getting any feedback from the staff there about, budget concerns coming in, or? I think
No,
the money's, I mean, the state's kind of flush with dollars right now, right? I think pretty
What?
much.
yeah, they're,
Supposing, asserting that Youngkin doesn't hand it all out.
they're always really conservative and they give you, like, oh, it's gonna be, this is good, everything's good. When we put in for the additional ask, they said that's fine. That's what we're seeing from every project we have right now. So, and I think they understand the urgency of actually getting it started and getting it completed too.
Yeah.
Because they're just gonna see more escalation as things go forward. So, they seem to be real comfortable with their number.
All right.
Len, looking ahead in our agenda, there's one item that I want to make sure we get to because we're going to have a board meeting upcoming. And I think we want to, as a committee, be able to make a recommendation one way or the other on the Carter proposal.
Yeah, let's talk about
So
that.
if we could move to that.
Yeah, let's go right to it. Yeah. So I
had a chance to review it, and I think it's worth our money to invest in this. And I think, we would get out of it what we want, basically. So
my take on it was it really wasn't a whole lot different than the one we saw back 65 years ago from from the same firm. It was essentially the same process and about the same amount of money. So I was very comfortable with it.
Okay.
yeah, it would update what we already had from the previous study, and I think they would serve as kind of the lead. We really need that. We need somebody to take the lead on this, and I think that would be really helpful to us.
It's a fixed cost. It's a fixed cost contract.
Yep.
As opposed to a percentage of money raised.
Yep. So I guess I would ask of the committee, are there any reservations about making a recommendation to the general board that this be approved? I'm not even sure that the board has a role in this. I think Joe probably has the authority to make this decision, but I'm sure he'd like our support.
I think it goes to the foundation board because the monies are going to come from the foundation.
That is correct, and I think the way it's set up, Tom, to echo what you said, Tom, Joe has the authority to make the call, but as a formality and as a courtesy, we will bring it up to the foundation board as well.
So the only,
Do you think it needs to come to the board of trustees?
I think it probably would, I mean, my opinion is it wouldn't hurt as an informational item, at least.
you just say those bastards at the foundation are going to do this.
Well, but yeah, so you don't think we need to make it as a recommendation that then would be moved and voted upon?
I don't think so, but yeah.
I think there might need to be something in the minutes suggesting that the board is okay with the museum requesting the funds from the foundation specifically for the consultant.
Because the contract's written with the museum, not the foundation, correct?
I think it'll be with the foundation.
It will be.
Yeah.
But it would be very supportive. It would help show the trustee support for the contract as we bring it to the foundation board. I think that would be helpful.
And it's
Yeah, and
important.
I'm perfectly happy to, on behalf of the committee to make that, to share that information with the board and, if so, if you want to give me the leeway to make some sort of crafted recommendation that could then be moved by the board just in support, again, to just kind of give Joe some cover and also to recommend to the foundation that this move forward.
That'd be great, Tom. We'd appreciate that.
That'd be very helpful.
I think it's important to note that the funding for this is coming from the restricted funds that were raised specifically from private fundraising efforts for this specific project. It's not coming out of the general budget or the foundation budget. It's coming out of the 80,000 plus that was raised specifically for this project.
That's a very good point, Len. Thank you for that.
So Tom, the only question I had the only uneasiness, and I had the same uneasiness years ago when we looked at that last proposal is, what happens if we're not successful, right? So his plan is they're going to lead us, a group of volunteers to go out and manage and and, with appointing a chairperson to lead this private fundraising campaign. And there's a series of, moves, this is what we're gonna do. But what happens if it doesn't succeed? There's no kind of like, is there an ability to go back for a revision without additional funds? Is there some kind of, that's the only, and I know I asked the question last time, and I don't know that we got a real solid answer from it, but, what level of effort, I guess, in this contract is going to say that, the first chairman, this chairperson started and then they die, and then we got to find another chairperson, and we, that kind of stuff. What kind of assurances do we have that we'll succeed? Because we're really relying 100% on volunteers following their lead.
Yeah, and I don't know that we have any assurances from volunteers, but we have assurances probably under the contract. I don't remember specific language, but what they're producing isn't guaranteeing us success, but I guess we're relying on their experience and connections and leading us in the right direction, reputation. So I did like the second person that was added in addition to Ted Sudol. I read her bio a little bit, and she sounds like a strong member of the team.
I would presume is that we get to look at the pitch, either the staff does or the board gets to look at the pitch, at least to make sure that it's got our spin on it, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think we would rely on the staff to help us there. But
So I guess what I'm saying is maybe, some assurances will be iterations if needed, as opposed to a one-off. This is our plan, and you guys make it work, and we have no responsibility if you fail. You know what I'm saying? If we need to have iterations just to hone it in properly.
Right, now, they're on board until the money is raised. I don't know, like you said, iterations, but that'd be something to look at. As Mark's saying, whatever the proposal, the official proposal, and where that stands.
Yeah, I'm comfortable with just the staff buying off on it. I think, you guys know what the messaging needs to be. It doesn't need to come from us, but for sure, it should reflect what we want it, the staff wants to communicate.
And also make sure that the timeline still works. I'm looking at their timeline, and we may be pushing that start a little bit just based on our discussions of where things are. So just making sure.
That's a great point. And what our message to the firm was that we would start this at the appropriate time when we're ready to do the fundraising in conjunction with the capital funding from the state. They are eager to do it, obviously, for a lot of reasons, but I think it was made clear to them that this might be in the spring, it might be in the summer, it just depends on the capital funding from the state.
So this is Greg. Is our message to the foundation board and the board of trustees that we have a consensus that we need to hire a third party to do this, but leave it in the staff's hands to work out the details?
I think that's a good way of putting it. Personally.
yeah, we are responding to a specific proposal, though. I don't know if we can mention that in the informational part of the meeting for the board. I think I would mention Carter and
Yes.
maybe say a few things about the principles that are going to be involved in it.
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure we got more than one proposal the last time, and these were the least expensive, which follows Virginia procurement law. I'm maybe fuzzy on that, but I think that was the case.
Greg, we had several proposals. I think we actually interviewed 3 finalists. And this was one of them. Ted Sudol was one of them. He was the one that, and the total package, the way they approached it, the people involved, and the pricing just made better sense all around. There was another fella, I forget his name, but I mean, their stuff was more percentage driven, I think, if I remember right.
Yeah, I know we went through the process, so yeah, I'm fine. I certainly agree that we need to have someone manage this for us, and And then also that we went through the process to pick Carter already, so.
Yeah,
Yeah, and here,
Essentially-
like Len points out, this funding is coming from the foundation and from the restricted funds for Waynesboro. So we don't have the same state process we have to go through in terms of vetting other potential.
yeah. Yeah, I think we can say that we're comfortable with the revised submission from Carter Companies to the original review process we conducted several years ago. I forget what year that was, but maybe we can put it that way. You know, to meet this specific project right now.
Yeah, well, that gives me what I need. So I just want to make sure we hit that agenda point. I've got another meeting I've got to go to, so I might just leave it in your hands, Len, for the remainder.
All right. Well, we got another 30,000 to spend, so we'll just talk. Thanks.
I have to get ready to teach. So good to be with you all this afternoon. Thank you so much. And boy, what a great thing to see. Oh my gosh.
Yeah,
It's
it's really,
getting-
really exciting.
Yeah.
Really
It's getting
exciting.
very, very exciting.
Thank you so much.
Thanks.
Miles.
Thank you.
See you later.
Long.
All right, so lecture series, so number 15, I think is, I forget her name, but are you talking about the lecture series up here or the one down in,
Up here.
okay.
I can remember her name.
So she's the Department of, gonna talk about the landslides up here on the Blue Ridge Mountain, Afton Mountain. And the whole structure of the geology in the Blue Ridge and actually in Virginia in general that causes these landslides. Somebody Witt, I think her last name is Witt, and the reason why it's topical for Waynesboro is like a year or two ago, 250 was closed down because of a major landslide that happened there. So it fits nicely with the, you know, the whole geology thing. Yeah, Nancy, is it?
Ann Carter Witt,
And Carter Witt, yeah. So,
and her talk is titled Investigating Landslides in Virginia, Identification, Mapping, and Emergency Response.
there you go. First responders and everything. Any questions about the lecture series thing? I think that's the last one for this year, and then we'll pick them up again in January. And I forget what's on the schedule for that. So how did you guys do at the Fall Foliage Fest? I understand you collected about 100 names.
We did. It was a great, I mean, on my first one, and I think it was a nonstop crowd, lots of good questions, lots of excitement. The questions were, when's it gonna open? And what about parking?
Yeah,
So we did our best, and I think folks left a lot more informed than they were when they showed up. Yeah, lots of excitement, collected emails, added those to the list.
and did you get a sense that there was a lot of people from outside this general area that were first exposed to this concept?
I talked to several from either out of state or outside the area.
Yeah.
Thinking through a lot.
Wow, really good. Feedback I got was your display was excellent, very interesting. But just people that went through, you know, so it was good. It was worth it. You guys felt like it was worth it? Yeah.
Good for them.
All right. Okay, upcoming presentations, Joe's at the Garden Club. Is there anything else on his agenda you know of? In the near future?
I think they just appear out of nowhere
Yeah.
multiple times a week. So,
Right.
No, he's definitely staying busy.
Joe's been on the road.
Yeah, that's good. All right, any open discussion items, any new business? Anything, anybody got anything they want to say?
I think we're good. There should be more to come after the farm engineering that meeting on Monday.
Okay, cool.
So
Well, it's great progress and the vision's really wonderful. I think they've taken the last design and just really turned it into something that really is appropriate for the area.
yes.
So, it's feeling really good. All right, well, if there is no other, yeah, Mark, you got something you want to add?
Yeah, I just want to say thanks to the staff because I know there's a lot going on here in addition to what you're doing every day in those buildings. So much appreciation from the whole board to the staff for the additional work that's going on to make this happen. As if it didn't take any effort, it takes a ton of effort and it's much appreciated.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Mark. We all appreciate that.
Anybody else? All right, hearing none, then we'll adjourn the meeting. Next meeting's December 6th, so we'll see you in a month.
So we'll see you in Martinsville.
Take care.
You were that, Mark.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.